Hey guys, welcome back to the Back to Brilliance podcast. We're your hosts, Henry and Joseph. Thanks for tuning in. Wherever you're listening, we ask that you subscribe, leave a message or a comment. It helps great people like you find our podcast. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into our topic today. We're got a good little treat for you guys. We're talking about intention to impact and what happens when you actually show up. We're going to go ahead and get started. We got Joseph here with us. Say what's up, Joseph.
Hey, how's it going?
We're good, brother. We're good. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and look at a couple of things today, bro. I wanted to see what you got on your mind, bro, when it comes down to this topic. We're talking about, intention to impact. A lot of times our intentions are good. We want to do things. We want to make things happen. But sometimes we find ourselves procrastinating or diverting and not doing the things, that can make the greatest impact. So, from our previous podcast, bro, we were talking about, different things, that hold us back and don't let us get to where we want to go. So today we want to kind of take a little different spin, and do like a little recap on taking action. So what do you got on that, bro?
Yeah, so I really just want to emphasize the fact that taking action is not only scary, but it's really rewarding. So, as scary as it may be in the moment, or even the moment before doing it, the reward it's far greater than any fear.
Yeah, fears. And sometimes those fears do hold us back, bro, from taking action, So what are some of the actions, bro, that, you've been taking lately, to help so we can show up?
Yeah. So specifically for me, one of the one of our earlier episodes, I mentioned how I was afraid of doing cold outreach or cold calls, and I was given an opportunity, a great opportunity, but I still had to do the action, right? Like
Hmm.
I was given a layup, but I still had to perform the layup, right? And so I took action. I was afraid to. I felt a little pushy. I felt resistance, but ultimately, I now have 2 meetings booked, and just taking action to make change. And that's like the big thing that I want to focus on with this topic today is just you know putting in the work, using the tools, using the mindset tools, using the actual tools, just putting things into action.
Good, bro. And congratulations on those two calls you got set up, bro.
Thank you.
That comes from the consistency of putting in the time and the effort and the energy to bring about, those things. Sometimes guys, like Joseph shared before, his cold calling thing was a issue that set him back, but he overcame it, and we're gonna discover some of the tools that he used, and I'll share some of the ones that I use, and hopefully, with the combination of those, it'll help you guys out, out and that are listening to this podcast. So, what are some of the steps you took, bro?
Yeah. So for the past week, I've been doing a 30-day action plan, and pretty much what it is you promise yourself that you're going to put forth effort and trying to do what it is you know what you need to do. And within that, there are different steps like visualization, affirmations, and mainly those two. I mean, if you wanted to do a little bit more with the action plan, it's recommended that you read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I've been basically reading one chapter a week, which is what was recommended. Is you read one chapter over and over for 1 week. So you read that same chapter for once a day for 7 days, and then you move on to chapter two. And so that has just really opened my mind up as far as it just made me feel more, or it makes me feel more alert and aware of what my limitations are.
Mm, Beautifully said, bro. Yeah, and that's the way it is, guys. is knowing your limitations, right, is going to help you uh, a great much along your journey. Um, yeah, absolutely, bro. You know, those steps you just laid out right now are very impactful uh, on our journey, guys. You know, I know a lot of you guys might have already read that book, Think and Grow Rich. You know, amongst other self help books. And sometimes we tend to think, well, I already read it, you know, but the thing is you have to reread things because in our lives, we're in different seasons. So sometimes when you read something at one point, you're in one season, it may not be applicable to your life at that time. So that's why it's encouraged to reread it, go back and reread it. You know, I go back and I reread books, you know, every so often. And I'm shocked and amazed at like, how did I miss this the first time around? So those type of things, you know, they help us and they set us up for, you know, taking action. So, yeah, that's a great tip that you want to reread. And that's why the challenge is out there is to, you know, get the most you can out of it because sometimes you don't, get it the first time around, so to speak.
Yes, I agree. And I mean, even the book says it itself at the like in the preface or whatever, the preface. It says like this is to be considered like a textbook, not just like a novel to read, just speed read through. Like you want to sit there and let it sink in. But not only that, but it was recently brought to my attention that reading is almost like eating food, right? It's knowledge for it's food for your brain, right? Food for thoughts. And if you say like, "Oh yeah, I read that book once," that's almost like the equivalent of being like, "Oh yeah, I went to that restaurant once." You know, if it's a good restaurant, you're gonna want to go back to that restaurant more than once.
No, agreed. And that's the thing is when you go to a restaurant, if it's good one time, you've only tried one meal. You know, there's other things on the
Hmm.
menu. So that's why when you reread it, you're going to get other things out of it, you know, as opposed to the first time around. So, yeah, no, that's some good tips, bro, you know.
Yeah, and I kind of want to pick your brain about just what do you think about daily actions and I guess following along with a regimen, right? Like 70-day hard or whatever the case may be.
Right. No, there's different programs out there for different people, you know. And you got to find what works best for you. I'm a firm believer that, you know, you're either growing or you're dying. Like, and when I say that, you know, that's in the not in the physical sense, though that is happening day to day, but in the mental and you know the mental sense because of your growth. You know, we have to thrive and we have to keep going. So I think the systems that we put in place, it's systems and methods that serve us, right? And it's the habits that we form that you know create the outcomes, you know, and help us to get to that place where we can see the fruit come about, you know. So it's having a system in place. My systems that are in place is I shared before is you know I read my Bible in the morning first thing, devotions, some self help, you know, inspirational, motivational. I listen to podcasts throughout the day, and that's what gets me going and keeps me motivated. You know, so for you, it might be reading, you know, whatever it is, but we have to find something, you know, for daily habits, you know, because they breed results.
Hmm. Definitely. And I second what you just said about finding what works for you. You know, I personally I know a friend who tried to do the 70-day hard and they couldn't stick with it because it just didn't it wasn't for them. And for me, what I really like is the 12-week year. So just to give a brief synopsis of it, pretty much whenever you set a New Year's resolution, for example, right? Oh, I want to lose weight. Oh, I want to get a new car. You know, that is so disconnected from 12 months because you'll set a goal and then you're like, "Oh, I have 12 months to do it." And then you
Mm-hmm.
get 3 months into the year, 4 months into the year, even 2 months into the year, right? February. Then it's like, "Oh, well, I still have 10 months. I still have 9 months." But if you break it up into 12 weeks, you have a lot more it's easier to track. Not only that, but it's also you feel a lot more pressure because you only have 12 weeks. So every week is like a month. And so what am I doing this month? What am I doing this month? And like for me, I've been doing that since December almost. I tried to formulate my year into 12 weeks, into 4 12-week periods, right?
Yeah.
And really I've seen such an increase in my life. I'm not following it strictly because you're supposed to track and like do specific things, but really just don't like giving yourself artificial deadlines.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. No, that's good, bro. That's some good stuff like that, you know. And again, everybody has their thing, but you're right, bro. We all set New Year's resolutions, and we break them by month two, three at the latest. You know, that's how the gyms start out, right? They're real packed on
Mhm.
January 1, bro.
Yeah.
By January 15th, it kind of thins out, and by the end of March, you know, it's over. And so, yeah, no, it's consistency. I think that's the key to it. However you break it up, you know, if you put it in a 12 week, a year, if you space it out over a year, the key thing is to track it, you know, to make sure, you know. I think, and that's something that Joseph touched on the last time about the journaling, you know. um it That's a form of tracking, so that way you can see, you know, of how things are progressing, you know, with the actions that you're taking. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I kind of want to pivot to our next topic, which is communication and more so networking with people. Because I mean, we've talked about it before, but we're going to talk about it again.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
the AI community, the community that we're in, it really has made me network with people, specifically or personally with me, right? And so I really want to just emphasize and highlight just the beauty of networking with people.
Okay. Yeah, touch on it, bro. What do we got?
Yeah. So really I just want to like elaborate on not only was networking a thing, or not only was networking something that I wasn't really passionate about and I kind of feared in a way, but ever since I started to communicate and really network with people, now I have good connections with people. I feel like I belong in a place. I feel like I've made my own spot. And I feel like a lot of people, you know, if you go to like a meetup or a networking event even, you know, you kind of stick with like the first person that you meet, or you might find like a little crowd to hover around, but you don't ever truly make the space yours. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do in this AI community that we're in, is make it my own space, right? Do
Mhm.
my things, have people come to me, and not necessarily me like flocking to like one of the groups or whatever.
Right, right. No, definitely, bro. And that's a good thing. You know, building a connection, you know, with new people. Um, it's good, bro. You know, it's we have to reach out, bro. You know what I mean? And part of that reaching out, bro, is making ourselves available as well for people to come back, you know, to reciprocate that same thing, you know. So um meeting new people, sometimes it's a little scary. What are they going to say? What are they going to think? You know, so these are the kind of things that run through our minds, you know. But with that, you know, it's we just have to reach out, because I think like the way things are and the way the world is today, with the way social media has kind of changed stuff. And we talked about that in one of our previous podcasts about doom scrolling and FOMO, and, you know, painting this certain picture. And then, you know, things are just, it's just different now, but it's starting to come back to where, you know, people are feeling alone, you know. They're feeling they don't have anybody to talk with or to
Hmm.
communicate with and to build with, you know. And that's something that's really key in communication. The key there is just to communicate, you know. But I think so much the social media doesn't create a communication as much as it creates just post. So you're just projecting, but and then you either get good feedback or you get bad feedback, right? So as humans, we need that interaction with each other. So yeah, building a connection with new people, bro, it's a great thing, you know. I definitely would say.
Yeah, yeah, and I really just want to highlight just being genuine. Like if you're a genuine person, if you have a genuine connection with people, that will go so far or so much further than just, hey, how's it going? Okay, bye. Or, if you ask someone like, hey, how are you doing today? And really genuinely meaning it from not only your hearts, but just, from all of you, right? Like whenever I ask people how they're doing, I genuinely want to know how they're doing. I'm not just doing it to hear a response.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's true, bro. Being genuine, you know. Listen, guys, people can see the BS coming a mile away. You know, they're used to it on a daily. You know, you run into somebody at the market, you're like, hey, how's it going? How you doing? That's short talk. You don't know them from Adam. They don't know you. So it's just, that's being uh, courteous, being, just, but always be your genuine self when you do so,
Hmm.
But yeah, and being genuine is what I think kind of brought us together. Because,
Hmm.
we genuinely saw like, hey, this guy, really reaching out and really cares. We weren't asking for anything of each other. We actually, uh, were formulating something together, and then we had to table that and we started talking about other stuff, and we got onto this podcast, and here we are a month later, 6 episodes in, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
this is just from building that connection through communication from a community that we were both a part of. So our point is, guys, is that it works.
Yes, definitely. And, you know, uh, I was recently listening to a seminar and the speaker was saying that, and even if you're not religious, but God or the universe works through people. It doesn't throw money at you, it throws people at you. And if you accept good people in your life, then you'll be surrounded by good people and have good things for you. And basically that's like forming a community of like-minded people, right? If you have a bunch of Henrys or a bunch of Josephs together, that's a whole community of people, right? Even if it's 5 people, 10 people, 200 people.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing, bro. You don't want to get caught up in the numbers. Oh, I got this big, crowd and we're doing all this, because it's hard to maneuver and do things when you have a bunch of inputs, and then it starts to veer off. So you always want to keep the main point the main point. You know what I mean? So the main point here is finding like-minded people like you, that are in the same thing, because then it just makes it easy to flow, and it
Hmm.
helps you to grow. So wherever it flows, the growth comes about. So that's the key when you're looking for a community. You want to find something that helps you to grow, and then you can contribute back, and you're going to build that network, and make those connections.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I would say for a community especially, I feel like it's important for everyone to be contributing to the same goal or same task, right? Like if everyone is building up something, then everyone feels like they're a part of building it up, right? So if all of us are building a machine or a robot, let's just say, everyone has their own little contribution to it. They all have their own little thing, and we're all here for a common purpose. And I feel like a lot of communities they just put you in a community because they want to like have people together for whatever reason, for money or for clout or whatever the case may be. And there's not like a real purpose or a real goal behind it.
Right. No, I agree, bro. There's like you said, some are looking for the numbers, whether it be growth numbers or financial numbers, whatever it is. And kudos to them if that's what they're looking for. Yeah. But like in community, what you want to find is somewhere where you can actually you're valued. Your ideas and your thoughts and your contributions are valued. I think that's what people are looking for. Being able to brainstorm and find ways to create, because that's what we are as humans. We're creators, right? So it
Hmm.
feels good when you create something. Like I was just talking, to an individual, and they were talking about repurposing their old equipment, like old devices and things like that,
Mm.
so there's a community for that, there's people that actually do these type of things. So you just got to find the community of like-minded people like yourself. We hope that our podcast is part of your tools and assets that get you there, you know what I mean? And with that, it's just staying on meeting people. That's the key.
Yes, yeah, definitely, definitely. And really, to do all of that, for me personally, it took a lot of self-reflection. I was, like I said earlier, whenever I talked about networking with people, that did not come naturally to me. That like none of that was natural or comfortable for me for a long time. And even still, I'm sure there's a lot of blocks or internal barriers when talking with people in person that I still need to overcome. But just again, sticking your hand out and saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm here to talk. I'm here for you if you need." Like that will go a long way. And again, just self-reflection. That's a very, very big thing.
No, absolutely. And we all have to take that inventory at some point in our life, right? And the reason why I say that is because sometimes you get drifted, in life, the currents of life carry you away. And, you get to a place where you realize, how did I get here? So that's a self reflection moment. And that's kind of what Back to Brilliance is about, because maybe you were at a high place and now you're at a low place. And like,
Hmm.
how did I get here? What happened? And how do I get back, or how do I get here? And it's not a place of getting so much back, but it's a place of getting to the next level, right? So that's what self
Hmm.
reflection does, and it helps us, to keep growing and to keep going. So definitely got to take that self reflection. Definitely got to put all these actions that we're sharing with you guys, implement them, and you could see results.
Yeah, definitely. It's a way to keep yourself accountable and just keep notes of your good habits and your bad habits, right? Like just taking inventory of what you do.
Mhm.
So many things are unconscious, and it's not until we've journaled about it or talked about it, really both, if you talk about it and journal about it, that you actually see, oh, I do that. Ooh, I've been doing that every day for a week now, or even a month now. Because again, if you do like a daily journal or a semi-daily journal, and then you're like you list out like good things that you've done that week or bad things that you've done that week, then you can compare 3 months down the road, right? If if you've done your 12-week year, if you look back at your previous year, then you could be like, hey, what did I do that quote unquote year? And then it's like, oh, I had that bad habit over and over again. Well, this year I'm going to work on that bad habit, and just doing that, you're constantly going to improve. That's something that I've been doing for years now. That I try to eliminate my bad habits. I'm not saying I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I'm not saying that I'm close to being anything close to anything that is perfect. But just if you eliminate your bad habits, you'll just be a better person.
Right. And that's the thing, is the reality is what got you here is not going to get you there. So it's like, again, in the self reflection, if you see like, I've been doing this and it's not serving me, well, the good thing is you could change it. You know what I mean? But you got to take inventory so you know what you have, what's serving you, continue, what's not, get rid of, and that helps you, to keep growing, and that gets you um, to a better place.
Hmm. Definitely. And, just I want to emphasize on calling out your bad habits as well as your good habits. Again, I want to emphasize this, especially in our podcast, because, this is our platform. And I really want to emphasize calling out your good habits. Be like, yeah, I really like that I do that. Because so often we always focus on the negative, but you have to focus on the positive. You have to give yourself flowers as well as whatever the opposite of flowers are. But,
Yeah.
or coal. You have to give yourself coal and flowers. And You know, not enough people do that. They only give themselves lumps of coal every time that they talk about themselves, every time that they think about themselves. But you have to give yourself praise. And, you know, if you like something that you do, or you're like, oh, I do that really well, or people tell me I do this really well, then you'll embody that even more.
Yeah, and I think one of the things when we do recognize our bad habits, I think it's important that we actually write it down and keep it in front of us to get rid of it, because sometimes we deceive ourselves. We think, oh, I'm, you know, I acknowledge it, I recognize it, and I let it go. But it takes, they think they say it's like 21 days to change a habit. So, it takes time for us to get rid of it. So I think spend a little bit of time, guys, call them out, like Joseph said, call out your bad habits, as well as our good habits, and again, taking that inventory and seeing what's serving you, keep doing. If it's not, get rid of, and, it'll help you to improve.
Yeah, and all of this is just an attempt to become a better person, right? Be a better version of yourself every day. Even if it's not every day, but that is your intention, is to be a better person, right? You don't want to be the same negative person you were 5 years ago. You would hopefully want to be a slightly more positive person every year, or any whatever metric you want to use. But I that's something that I have consciously told myself and want to do, because you could want to improve on your cooking, you could want to improve on your athletic, or your fitness, or whatever the case may be. But you also have to improve your internal, because once you improve your internal, it improves your external exponentially.
Absolutely. If you don't put the reps in, guys, you can't expect any results, right? That's just the reality. So, like, in whatever it is you're doing, uh, we're always doing it for the betterment of ourselves, for the others around us, for your family, and everything like that. So, one of the key things to do is just to implement these tips and tricks. We hope that they're serving you, So, it you got to take it from the intention to an impact, in order to see results, and that only happens, when you're actually taking the steps. So, yeah, bro, I think with that, I just want to give an overview real quick. Put these tools into action, taking that consistency in doing these things and creating that communication and networking with people, getting involved in a community of like-minded people, the self-reflection, that's important for, taking that inventory of our habits. Again, if they serve you, keep using them. If they're not, discard them, as Joseph said, the good habits are like flowers and the bad habits are like coals. So don't let them, consume you. Get rid of them, so we have that opportunity. So with that, bro, you have any closing comments or anything?
Yeah, definitely. You kind of talked about it before, like you kind of touched upon it, but just being able to give yourself praise will go so far. And also, you also said it earlier as well, but even if you like, if let's say you read a self-help book, right? And you're like, ooh, I read that self-help book. You're now going to be in a position where you see your bad habits, but you still have to do the work and improve those bad habits, right? It's not like you're going to magically be a completely different person if you don't put in the work. And that is something that I personally have been trying and putting intentional efforts in trying to do, right? Because I love to consume self-help and all of that personal development, whatever term you want to call it. But you also have to put in the work. You also have to put in the time and dedication into improving yourself.
Very well said, bro. I agree. So thank you for that, bro. We appreciate you. We appreciate you guys listening. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Back to Brilliance podcast. This is the conclusion of this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment and a review. It helps great people like you find our podcast. Thank you again, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye bye.